Okay, so we left off with the Ten of Swords. And being a 10, I, I always feel that the numbers are related to themselves. Other cards that share that number in the spread. And the two tens are sort of connected. They both deal with, of course, the material world, but also um, I get the sense that in the immediate future you're going to give up on some of these, or not not quite give up, but well, maybe because you're not quite satisfied with it anymore. But taking a break again, I think that's what the first reading was talking about, as far as really needing to take a step back and let some of those ambitions die a little bit because they're not necessarily helping you. The other aspect of this, given what we were talking about in the first reading and wanting to explore more intuitive sides of yourself and what you're capable of doing, the Ten of Swords does not speak well to that. I think that this is a card that stifles any of that because it's so rational. It's rationality taken to the extreme, and it sort of kills our any enjoyment we find in life. And so I see this as you telling yourself, like, I can't do that, or that's not going to work. That doesn't make sense for me to do, or yeah, things like that. Immediately feeling like you can't go down that route for whatever reasons. Or perhaps others even telling you that too. Not feeling like you have the support you need for that. So now how you see yourself in the situation is the moon. And again, you had that in the previous reading too. You have a lot of recurring cards and themes, which I take as a good sign. Means it was a relatively coherent reading, at least I hope. And I think the moon again shows that you're feeling a bit lost right now as far as directionality. Being another water trumpet is connected to the chariot, and the chariot does have a sense of where he's going. He's in control of the situation, and that's what you would like to get, but we're here right now. But of course, the sun is, if you can see it, buried underneath all this muck, and it is waiting to rise again. So it is a card that tells us that to withstand our fears, to withstand our doubts, that we can survive them if we have trust. I think in God, in spirit, and whatever word you would like to use for it. Trust that comfort is always there, is always looking out for you, and is going to guide you to a better place of surety. The moon also being Pisces, I think, is interesting. You've got some Pisces in this card too, and that again speaks to idealism and intuitive arts, which I think is interesting. You also, to be fair, you also have some solar business here. So actually the Ten of Swords is related to the Eight of Discs too, really. And so we can see it really as being a direct response to this entire situation. And again, I think rationality taken to the extreme is the result of that. Practical affairs being more your focus here, as opposed to your more idealistic goals. Your environmental factors being the Hierophant. Either you have a specific teacher or someone you look up to, excuse me, that Well, that may be trying to direct your path in a way, trying to give you advice. I'm not sure if they're giving you spiritual advice or if they're giving you more mundane advice. I think it could be either way. Perhaps it has multiple levels, and perhaps on one hand you are receiving inspiration from other people on a spiritual level, and perhaps on another you're receiving more practical direction. I think the Hierophant, sort of the master of morals and I guess the proper way of doing things, if you will. I think there are different people around you that have different ideas of what you should do, and I think the other Earth card connecting it is prudence, and so I think probably the majority of them are dealing with more mundane stuff. The advice you're getting is more about that end of your life. It's telling you to they're telling you to worry more about that and not really worry so much about the other things that you're passionate about, your more creative side. But I do sense, because the Hierophant is sort of like the Pope, that there are other sources, external sources of teaching that you are either reading about or watching on YouTube or whatever. You are also receiving externally other sources of inspiration for that end of things as well. And perhaps those are also guiding you, but you're not quite sure whether or not you should trust them or not. So your hopes and fears are the Four of Swords, the Lord of Truce. And being another air card, it's connected to the Ten of Swords, but the four is always about butting against authority, and not really butting against it in a sense that there's conflict, but sort of allowing yourself to be governed by that. It's dealing with society in general and dealing with others and trying to negotiate with others and deal with others as equals and peers and that sort of thing. It's the idea of the state itself or society itself. And I do think that there's a very strong because part of you wants to fit in so strongly. I think you're sacrificing some of your other ideals, perhaps, in order to fit in more, something like that. I get the sense that that's part of your concern here, is you're worried about what other people are going to think. But also, the Four sort of being about rest, in a way, and putting aside one's own agenda for the sake of others, perhaps, or in order to deal better with others. I think part of you might be concerned about that you're also letting things slip by doing that, by ignoring that call to partake in a more spiritual life or practice. That is also concerning. You don't want to lose that either. You don't want to let that go. But there is an impressive sense to that with the Ten of Swords, so I think it could go either way. And the overall outcome is the Prince of Swords, who is part Capricorn and part Aquarius. And as another person, I don't really know. I don't sense it as another person in your life. I see it more as a manifestation of you, and I think the Prince of Swords, again, has a hard time making up his mind. I think he's someone that has a lot of ideas at once, and goes through a process of culling them one by one until he finds one that fits, and then he charges at it, sort of violently. Um, and so I think this is saying that for now the overall outcome of this is not feeling in control necessarily of your direction, and sort of waiting for ideas to come, and as they come, following them, and the process, the result of that being that you go in sort of a scattered direction as opposed to a focused direction. I think the Chariot is again related to temperance or art, and that it's telling you that it is the best you can get out of this is to let both of them lead you in a more unified direction, and it's difficult to say what exactly that is, but it really is. I do sense that it is what you choose to make it. You have the Ace of Wands as your deep card, sort of underlying all of this, and I feel that the Ace of Wands is, of course, undefinable. It says that there is an opportunity here for you to start a new endeavor with a lot of gusto, but it really isn't defined yet, and it can be whatever you make it. There's a lot of creative potential here, and I think whatever creative potential you have is based actually in the event of the Aeon, whatever this is, this very spiritually ordained event, which is interesting also because it's the only fire card in the actual spread. Everything else is relatively balanced, and you've got 3 water cards, and as a whole they speak to sort of doubt and confusion and unhappiness with your social situation again. You have, you have 4 with the Chariot as well. So a good percentage of your reading is dealing with water and trying to gain control of that situation too. Your air cards, you have 3, the Ten of Swords, 4 of Swords, and the Prince of Swords. And those, again, speak to putting aside one's idealism for more practical things in order to fit in with others, and because of that, we end up going in a scattered direction, sort of being unsure again, lacking focus. And then your Earth cards, Prudence and the Hierophant, are both speak to practicality and tradition, and doing what seems morally right as opposed to what actually feels right. And morally right in the sense of what society says is morally right. And it's interesting, Jupiter rules this card, and Jupiter rules the 4 of Swords as well. And I think what this is telling you in the Chariot is that you need to be your own authority in this very strongly. This is giving you the opportunity to do that, and it depends on whether or not you choose to take it. Part of this is very much about changing your world perspective, because right now you're letting your perspective be dominated by what rationally seems right and what others think is right, but not necessarily what feels right to you. So I think it's telling you need to trust that a lot more. And I think that's it. That's about all I can get out of this. All right. So there you have it. If you have any questions, comments, please let me know. And I was very happy to do this for you, Michelle. It was very nice getting to see more of your reading style and to hear the advice you have for me, which was very exciting, and I was very, very happy to get that reading. So thank you very much. Oh, wow. Hey. And yeah, thank you, and I hope to hear from you soon. Bye, everyone.